Hey, sewing friends. Today I have a quick tutorial for you. We are going to take this panel that I have. This is the autumn butterflies. I think they're technically moths, but I've got two panels available. These are the jumbo autumn butterflies, and then we have spring butterflies. I'll show you that one here in just a second. But what we're going to make with these is a jabot, a belt, a necklace. I mean, you could tie this around anything that you want to adorn. So I'll just briefly show you here. You can see how big these I'm gonna keep calling them butterflies. My son was like, no, I think they're moths, and maybe they are. But anyway, you can see how big they are. And each panel has 12 on it, and they are duplicates. So you get 6 different ones duplicated. So, and they will be mirror images. And I think they're pretty well, I mean, they're basically the same on both sides, but you may have a little different shape. So if you wanted to put a butterfly on the front and the back, they are going to be mirror imaged. So you can see these two are the same, just a mirror image of each other. So, but you get 6 different colored ones. So there's this one. You can see this one here with some orange and some blues. We've got this one down here. This one almost looks like wood to me. I like the colors on this one and that deep mustard. This one is the same as the top, and then this one's the same as the bottom there. Now the one I'm going to use for this sample is this one here. I really love this one with the big dots on it. And the different colors. This one's got the blues, the reds, the yellows, the greens. That's one of my favorites. And then you've got this one here that's got like some beiges and some pinks. And then this big guy down here, I like him too. So that's the autumn one. Now, if you're interested in the spring one, I'll show you some of the butterflies on it. And again, it's the same thing. There's 12 to the panel, and it's 6 different butterflies, all mirror imaged. So you got this bright orange one. We've got this little guy here with some greens and really bright blues in it. This yellow one. This one here also is one of my favorites. It's kind of a teal or seafoam maybe green. I love that one. And of course there's his duplicate. And no, it isn't. I'm telling you stories. These two are different. This one's got the big light pink bottom wing, and then this big yellow one here. So this is the spring jumbo butterfly panel, and I will put the link to the Etsy shop right up here at the top for you. But today I'm gonna do fall because we're coming up on fall. So again, this is the one that I'm gonna use for today, but both are available. So what you'll need to make this project is you are going to need some sort of tie material. I have these strips of linen that I had dyed and just torn into strips that I would use for appliques. I've got tons of it. So you could use something like that. I also have these silk ribbons that I bought. This is from Dry Gulch on Etsy. You get these little packs with these little silk ribbons. I've got some of that. You could use that. You obviously could just use twill tape. This is a thin twill tape. I've got a thicker one somewhere. I'm not sure where it is right now. But you could use twill tape. I even pulled out this velvet ribbon. I think that would be really pretty to have just a nice velvet ribbon. Anyway, so any type of ribbon or tie that you want to use, you obviously could. The other thing that you're going to need is a backing fabric. And I am going to put a little pocket on the back of mine that you could like tuck like your little ID in, or maybe a key, or I don't know, you know, whatever. If you just need to stick a little something in there, I'm going to put a little pocket. So I'm going to use just a linen fabric for the back of mine. Again, if you want the butterfly on both sides, you are going to have 2 of each butterfly to be able to do that with. If not, get you something that just a little scrap of something that you want to use for the back. The next thing that you're going to need is just a plain piece of like muslin. This is just a real thin muslin. And I'm going to use this for the quilting because we are going to do some stitching over the top of the butterflies. And you're going to need some quilt batting. I didn't bring my big roll of quilt batting over here because it's big. So you do need some batting. Other than that, that's really all we're going to need. So what we're going to start with is the front of the butterfly or moth. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut it out. And as you can see, I've started cutting this one and I've left just about maybe 1/8 of an inch. I don't think that's quite 1/4 inch on the outside of it. Just a little bit. Okay. So let me get this finished cut out. I can't even talk. Let me finish getting this cut out. Let me get this cut out and we'll meet back and I'll tell you what we're gonna do next to get this quilted. All right, so I've got it cut out and you can see all the way around I've left, like I said, about, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch, just a little border. And then what I've done, I took this scrap of cotton quilt batting and I have traced around it with just a little, I used just a little Sharpie marker, a thin one. Traced around it. When I got to the antenna, they are so small that I don't really think I need quilt batting in there. So I kind of just made a little curve here for the head. So the head will have batting, but not the antenna. You can handle that however you feel is best. And I guess that might depend on which one you have and what size the antenna are. Some of them I think have some really long ones. And on those I might go ahead and leave it just to give them some more stability. These are pretty short, so I don't think I'm going to put any batting under them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. Now, on my edges, I'm going to want this to be frayed, okay? And I'm going to want my backing piece also to be frayed. I kind of want my backing piece to hang over this a little bit, but I don't really want a lot of this cotton batting all the way up to the edge. So what I'm going to do when I cut this out, I know this is right at the edge of this fabric. I'm going to cut inside of that, probably about the same distance that I've left here, so that my batting is going to go up to the edge of the moth itself, but not be hanging out, okay? So let me get this cut out. Okay, so I've got my batting cut out and this is what I cut it from. So I don't know if you can see here, that's about how much I went in from my drawing line, which again, I think is pretty close to what I left on there. So what will happen is if I turn my moth over and lay this on top, you can see that it's just, I mean, it fills it, but it's just smaller than the outside of the butterfly. So now what I'm going to do, and I guess I should have cut this earlier, sorry you guys, I'm going to tear a piece of this off. This is going to be the back for my quilting. I'm just going to lay this on here. And I'm not going to worry about cutting this down just yet. I'm just going to leave this the same size it is now, just so when I go to quilt this, I have something to hang on to. So let me turn this back around. Okay, so we have 3 layers on here. We have our moth on the top. We have our cotton batting that's cut just a little bit smaller than the moth, and then we have our, this is just a thin muslin on the bottom to give it stability as we quilt. I'm gonna go ahead and pin these layers all together so that I can do my quilting. Now for the quilting, you can do it any way you wish. I'm gonna do some free motion quilting. So I'm gonna probably do some circles and some swirls and maybe some circles down here, probably some like big teardrops for these wing pieces. We'll just see where it goes. Probably outline these a bit. If you're not into free motion quilting, if you just want like a simple way to quilt these, one thing you could do is just trace around your big sections. That would be perfectly fine. If I were doing that, I'd probably just go around the body, and that you don't have to use a free motion foot. You can just use your regular sewing foot, and just stitch around the wing, stitch around this lower wing, maybe stitch around the bulb of the body, and then the long portion of the body down here. I don't know what the different parts are called. But anyway, you're going to want to get some quilting done either way. Another thing that I've seen another way I've seen some of them done is just with like straight lines, and you could do that too. You know, just run you either some vertical lines, you know, every inch or so, or really this is kind of a free form project. So whatever you feel comfortable doing, by all means do it. And even if you don't feel comfortable doing it, if you've never tried free motion and you want to give it a go, hey, what do you have to lose? You know, this would be a great practice project for that, because really there are no mistakes. You know, just let it go. All right, so I've got it pinned down. I'm going to go do my quilting, and we will meet back and see where we're at then. All right, so I've gotten it all quilted. I did the free motion quilting. Just some little different designs all around. You can see my back is kind of grungy. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and trim off this backing piece. And when I do, I'm going to trim pretty close up in here. Like, I don't want this, pardon me, I don't want this coming out to this edge. And it's going to be pretty well sealed. All of this is going to be inside. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this, like I said, probably right around my stitching here on from the back side, so it doesn't show on the raw edges. And once we get that trimmed up, then we're going to be ready to start on the back piece. All right, so I've got all the excess fabric trimmed, so I hope you can see the only thing I've trimmed up next to my stitching, and the only thing that I've left is what I have on the front here. So that way you've got everything else trimmed up. Then what you're going to do is take your backing fabric and lay your moth down on that. And I don't know if you can see here, I've gone ahead and traced around the outside of this, leaving about a 1/2 inch extra. So I hope that shows up. Anyway, I have a white pencil, but I just traced around it, leaving, like I said, about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to make some markings on here, because depending on which moth you're using, everything is going to be a little bit different size. But the first thing that you're going to want to mark is the center of your moth. So just take you a ruler, and I'll just mark a mark down at this at the bottom, and then at the top. And then when I remove the moth, I'll just continue that line down as a guide. And then I'm going to find the kind of the widest part, not all the way out here at the tip, but right about here, probably about an inch down from the head or the top section, you know, of the moth here. We don't want to, or I would say the lowest section of the moth, about an inch down, okay? And we want to make a line, a cross line going there. So mark out on this side, and then mark out on this side, and then take our moth off, and then I'm just going to connect those. This linen sometimes is hard to mark on because it kind of moves with you, but I hope that's marking so I can see it. There we go. Anyway, these lines are just going to help you to for the placement of the straps and the pocket. So this isn't marking so well. Oh, I guess it did. I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. And then I'm going to mark this one here, coming upwards. I need one of those little chalk pieces, but I don't think I have one. There we go. Well, that one showed up good. Let me try this one again. That same side of the pencil. This is just, I guess, the grain of the fabric going this way. It's wanting to grab it. Anyway, so I've got my cross laid out here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out on this outer line, which again gives you about a 1/2 inch on the outside of your moth. So get that cut out, and then we're going to start building this back piece with our pocket and our strap. All right, so I've got that cut out, and it's kind of wonky. It doesn't need to be exact because you're going to trim this down at the end. And I went back and kind of darkened my crosshairs here, so hopefully you can see how that looks. And again, the placement of this is not on every moth. It's going to be different, or every butterfly it's going to be different just based on the shape. But again, you want it kind of in this top section because that is where your strap's going to be, and that's what's going to hold the weight. Okay. Now, if you're wanting to add a pocket, again, everyone is different size, so you're just going to kind of judge, you know, like I could have a pocket about that big. Okay, so that's what, about 4 inches by 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is just cut me a square. And actually, I kind of like this wrinkled edge of this linen here, so I'm going to leave that as the top of the pocket. So let's see, and y'all don't laugh at my square. It's been through a lot with me, but it looks pretty rough. Pretty rough. So I'm just going to mark me out a little 4-inch square for my pocket. Okay, and I'm going to get that cut out. And then the last step, or the last thing that we need to cut out, is going to be, they're almost like belt loops. We're just going to cut some strips, or cut a strip. And I'm probably going to cut it this way just because I have more fabric going that way. So I'm just going to cut me a long strip. You're going to want to make sure that it's at least probably about, let me think, 1, 2, 4, that's 1.5 inches, 3, 6, I would say at least 7 inches long, and 1 inch wide. Okay, so we're going to want to go 7 inches long, 1 inch wide. So I'm going to mark that strip out, and that's going to make the little loops. There's going to be 2 loops at the top and 2 loops on each, or 1 loop on each side. And I'll show you what that's going to be used for in the end, because that's depending on how you tie on your butterfly or moth. If you tie it around your neck, you're going to want the straps to be coming out through the top. And if you tie it around your waist, like a belt or you know, something of that nature, you're going to want the straps to be coming out the sides of the moth. So these little belt loops are going to help you to guide the strap so that it's kind of going in the right direction when you wear it. So there we go, good enough. So what I'm going to do, let's see what we need to do. Let's go ahead and prepare this piece. So what we're going to do is I'm going to press this. We cut this 1.5 inches wide. Oh, I did it 1.5 inches, didn't I? I should have done it 1 inch, I think. Yep, 1 inch would be better. Sorry. This is what happens when you kind of fly by the seat of your pants. I get something in my head, and then I was thinking the length of them needed to be 1.5 inches, not the width. So the width is 1 inch. So let me cut that down some. There we go. Okay, so and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to press it 1/3 of the way up on this side. And again, this does not have to be like measured precisely, because we're going to have raw edges, and again, this is not like a fitted garment that you want to be, you know, exact. Sometimes the little variances and nuances are what give it that kind of rough and ragged and worn look. So I press that up 1/3 of an inch. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to press this back. So basically I'll have 3 layers, but I'm going to have a raw edge on each side. And this is probably way longer than what I need. Like I said, each loop is going to be 1.5 inches long, and you need 4 loops. So that's really 6 inches is exactly what you need, but I always do a little bit extra just in case, you know. All right, so I hope you can see that it's kind of like an accordion. You see? Come on. There we go. It's really pressed good, but kind of like an accordion. So you can see that I've got 3 layers, but I've got a raw edge on this side and I've got a raw edge on this side. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I am going to just run a zigzag stitch right down the middle of that. Okay. All right. So I've just run a zigzag stitch to hold that. And we are going to cut this into 1.5 inch sections. And you can see why I put a little extra, because it got kind of crazy at that end. So I'm just going to snip that end off. Bloop. And then take my yardstick and I'm just going to measure these at 1.5 inch intervals. Right there. And again, it's not super exact. There. And you need 4 of them. There. And get our 4th one. Right there. All right, so we're going to set those aside for a moment. We've got our pocket cut out. We're going to set it aside for a moment. And we are going to take our moth, get some of my junk out of the way, and our strap. Now, this strap, I think, is 3 yards, roughly 3 yards. You can make this as long or as short as you want it, depending on how you're going to wear this. Like, if you're only going to wear this as like a jabot around your neck, you may want it to be a little bit shorter. I chose to make this one longer so that you could wrap it around your waist a couple of times and have a cute, almost little belt style. And now my strips weren't quite long enough, so I just tied them, you know, and we've got our frayed raw edges, so it just gives it that kind of rusticy look, and I like it. And I tied little knots at the end. So anyway, what you're gonna do is find, bless you, Mur, find the middle of your strip. Okay, so this is my middle, and right at the center of this cross is where we're going to put the middle. Now, I'm not going to spread this out. If you have a ribbon, or if you're using like if you were using twill tape, you know, you're just going to lay it flat like that, and we're going to stitch a square right here to hold that down. But on this, I want this to have this twisted up, crunched up look, so I'm not going to straighten all this out. I'm just going to sew right over the top of it just like it is. So I'm going to pin this here. That side, and put a pin on this side. And you're going to want to stitch probably, since this is wider and narrower, I'm probably going to go like it, oh, pin that one crooked, like about 1.5 inches, you know, this way, and then down, and just stitch a square right here. And then once you stitch the square, you can put an X in the middle of the square, and that's going to hold that really snug. Okay, so let's go get that sewn down, and we will move on to the belt loops. All right, so I've got my square and then the X sewn in it to secure it well. And what you're going to want to do now is place your pocket about where you're going to want it to go. And when you do that, remember, don't get too close to these upper edges, because remember, we made that 1/2 inch border around our moth or butterfly. So make sure that when you're placing that pocket, that you're not going to have it extend up above this moth. Okay, so if I lay that there, my pocket is still down below. Okay, so I'm good there. I'm even going to bring it down just a tad bit more, about right there. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pin my pocket in place. And I'm leaving this just bunched up right here at the top just because I like how it looks. So pin that in place. Like so. And then we are going to look at our belt loops. And the reason for these is if you just have it like this and you go to hang it, now I know I don't have the quilted part on the front, but going to your neck would probably be okay, but you've got these wide wings, and I really would rather that strap be coming out of here when it's hanging around my neck. But if I were to tie it around my waist, I would want my strap to be coming this direction, not this direction. So what we're going to do is put these little belt loops on here so that we can thread this through whichever way we want to be wearing it for that day. Okay, so we are going to place this belt loop about 2 inches out, well, from my pocket. I mean, and again, all of this is going to depend on the size of your moth, so you're going to have to kind of use your judgment there. But I am going to put my belt loops in almost a T shape, but we don't have this side. So one vertical line here, and then starting here, I'm going to have a horizontal line. So if I want to wear it as a necklace, it's going to go through there and then through there. And then my strap's going to be coming out at the right spot at the top. If I want to wear it as a belt, I would just pull it through that belt loop, leave that, you know, and then wear it as a belt. So that's where I'm going to place my belt loops on either side. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then also I'm going to go ahead and stitch down my pocket. Okay? All right, so I've got my pocket sewn down. I've got my, I'm still going to call them belt loops. My belt loops put on here. I've got my belt loops put on here. So now you can see if I were to wear this like as a belt, I mean, it's real floppy right now because I don't have the quilt on, but you can see that's going to give it the tension to keep it kind of straight. And then if I wanted to wear it as a necklace or a jabot, then I'm just going to thread my little straps through here and have them come out the top. And then that again is going to help it hang the way that I want the moth or the butterfly to hang. Get that through there. Like that. So then it hangs from the top. Okay? So I think that just gives it a little more flexibility. So now our last step is going to be putting the front that we quilted onto this back piece. I'm going to lay my back piece down, and I'm going to take my moth and I'm going to set it back down on the top here. And what I want to check for again is where are my belt loops. Make sure that they're underneath here, because this is where I'm going to be stitching, right where the colored line meets the white area. I'm going to zigzag all the way around here, and I don't want to catch those belt loops, so I can feel my belt loop is right here, and then I want this one to match up and it's right here. So I am good with that. So I'm going to pin that in place, and again my pocket, yeah, I can feel my pocket starts right here and right here. So I'm perfectly good with that. So I'm going to pin this little moth in place. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, instead of jumbling these up underneath, I'm going to pull them both to the bottom. I'm going to pull them to the bottom, and I'm going to start sewing here, and I'm going to come around, and when I get to here, I'm going to move these just so I don't run over them, if that makes sense. Otherwise, I'm going to have a big ball under here that I don't want to have to deal with. So put them back to the bottom. Now I just made a mess of everything. I'm going to have to double check. So let me feel. There's my stitching lines there, so I'm good. All right, so get your moth or your butterfly pinned down where you want it to be. And again, making sure everything is placed underneath where it needs to be. So so your pocket and your belt loops and all line up underneath. There's my pockets. I got your little head. I'll center a bit there. And then, like I said, all we're going to do now is zigzag these two pieces together. Put one more pin down here. Okay, I think that's pinned enough. And again, we're just going to zigzag right along this. So I have some of this white that's going to fray out. So I'm going to zigzag right along here, all the way around. When I get up to the antenna, I'm going to go around this side of the antenna and then back around that side. I may not have as much white hanging out there, but that's okay. So zigzag everything together, being sure not to zigzag over your straps. Okay? All right, so I've got the front sewn onto the back, zigzagged around everything. Let me show you on what I ended up doing on the antennas. Instead of trying to go around each side, I just decided to zigzag right down the middle of it. And I think that worked out pretty well. So, you know, do it how you see best, but this seemed to work well for me if you'd like to try that. So we've got everything done here, and on the back side, you can see we've got our little belt loop so we can adjust how we wear it. And obviously if we pull these up through here just like we did before, pull this one through and I'll show you how it's gonna hang, hopefully. Pull that through there. And so it hangs pretty nicely like that. And then, like I said, if we wanted it as a belt, we'd just pull these out and then it's gonna wrap around your body this way. Then we've got our cute little pocket here. So if you wanted to stick like your debit card, or you know, it's gonna be held close to you. So you could put your debit card, you could put you know, whatever you wanted to in there, a little tube of chapstick, what have you. But that's it. That's all there is to it. So again, you can find these panels in my Etsy shop. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. The only thing I'm going to do now is go throw this in the washing machine and let all these edges fray up and give it a real rusticy look. And she is done. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Check back often. I'll be releasing new tutorials as I can find the time to make them all. So you guys enjoy and happy sewing. Take care.